Ba-dum-bum. Thank you, Ross, for that introduction to the Parent Pivot podcast. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you're like going, what are you talking about? So we have Ross from Friends moving a couch up the stairs yelling, pivot, pivot, pivot.
Pivot,
right?
pivot.
Yeah. And I'm Steve Cummings.
And I'm Julia Cummings.
Hey, so this is another podcast YouTube cast. Yes, that we're doing. Whatever. And I always turn to my lovely wife and I say, sweetheart, what are we talking about today?
So I was thinking, I've actually been reading this book, which I will introduce you to in a moment. I wish we could get the author of this book. I don't think we could.
We could try.
We could.
She's been on Tucker Carlson's podcast. Why couldn't she be on ours?
I don't know. I'm sure she's been on several.
Yeah.
And that was just the one that was sent to us. So,
right.
So we heard.
Right.
So I assume she's been on many
right.
podcasts. In any case, my thought today is about you as a partner to your adult children.
Yep.
In the sense of being healthy. Now, we all know what it's like to be on the other side, being a parent, telling our children, you should do this, you should do that. As they're growing up, teaching them how to be healthy, teaching them not to overeat, teaching them, not too much sugar, all of those things. We also know that we do all of those things ourselves, in spite of what we tried to teach our children.
I raised my hand, I'm guilty.
Yes, who are now adults. And now perhaps you're on the other side of that. Perhaps your children are watching habits you have, and they're coming to talk to you and say, Mom, Dad, you shouldn't be doing this. I can think of, I used to be a Diet Coke addict. And I had a lot of people telling me, don't do that, don't do that. I have not had one in 10 years, which is great. But that's an example. So it could be something like that. It could just be, hey, I'm out smoking cigarettes or cigars or vaping. Or it could be, hey, Mom, Dad, I notice you're drinking alcohol all the time. Or it could be, Mom, Dad, you are eating way too much sugar or too many fats or too much pork or too much blah, blah, all of those things. So back to this.
Yep.
Where this fits in to you being a good partner for your adult children.
Yes.
Is don't leave them having to take care of you. Don't be the grandparent who can't take care of their grandkids because they have so many ailments that they can't. Don't be the person that would rather just sit at home all the time because everything's too uncomfortable to do anything else. Don't be the parent who wallows in your pain, whether that be physical or emotional. There are a lot of aspects to being a healthy person. And it is all encompassing. So this podcast that Steve and I are talking about is by a doctor who kind of let her practice go. Her name is Casey Means. She wrote this book with her brother, Callie Means. It is called Good Energy. I am only 4 chapters in, and I feel like my head's about to explode. There's so much information in it. And albeit there is a lot of biology in it, which I am such not a science person. Are you a science person?
I am
honey?
not. The only thing I enjoyed in science was genetics because it was like big A, little, just genetics. That's the only thing I enjoyed.
It was easier.
It was easier.
So this is a lot of biology. The one thing that I would say is, even as I read the biology, I do not understand it all. And it's a lot of things that really go over my head. But the bottom line I always get, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. And then she kind of took, the part I read today was, she takes you through looking at your annual blood test, presuming that you go to the doctor and get an annual blood test, and what those numbers mean. Because as many of you may know, doctors work within what they're given pretty much from insurance companies, that normal is this. And
she's holding her hand a foot apart for those of you listening.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Normal is within a certain range. And the truth is, for you, that range may not be normal. I know I went through this in my own life with trying to figure out my thyroid years and years ago, probably 15 years ago. And I went to so many different doctors, and I'd say, thyroid issues run in my family. My mom has it. My brother has it. My sister has it, blah, blah, blah. And I would give them all the symptoms, and then they'd do a blood test, and they'd go, well, you're in the normal range. Finally, I went to a nurse practitioner, which I love nurse practitioners, who actually listened to me and said, I don't even need to do a blood test. I can tell you your thyroid's all messed up. And I was like, I practically cried in that office because finally someone listened to me and she gave me medication. That was great. Now, where this book goes is taking that all way step further and showing you how the system is really set up to work against us. Yes.
Go ahead. I mean,
you said time out.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to add something when you're finished.
Okay. How the system kind of works against us and how doctors today are trained to work within one area.
Okay, so can you hit the pause button?
Yes.
So you're talking to the husband of a incredible woman who's been on top of health and stuff for a long time. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I've never once really said, sweetheart, I don't want to do that. But my philosophy was like, hey, I've only got so many years on this earth. If I want to eat some ice cream or I want to have this cookies or whatever, I want to enjoy my remaining years of doing that. So I've not been a motivated, health diet conscious person, would you say?
Very much so.
Okay. So anyway, a friend of mine, he and his wife listened to this podcast, and I knew you know about Casey Means. Here's what I know, the little that I know. So Julie knows more. We'll go back to her in just a second. But what got me motivated was the fact that she graduated top of her class in one of the top medical schools in the country at Stanford. She started being was she a surgeon?
Yeah, she was an ENT surgeon.
She's an ENT surgeon for 9 years. And what's dawning on her is she's realizing that nothing in medical school ever taught her about the metabolism of the human body and all these little things that are entering into it. So they mentioned that. And on the other podcast I listened to, because Tucker Carlson was going nuts, you got to be kidding me, was the fact that I didn't realize this, but the tobacco manufacturers back in the day kind of saw the writing on the wall that they were not going to be able to go very far in their business. So they bought into the food industry. Mm-hmm. And I know you're going to go there. Mm-hmm. But basically what Casey was saying was like, wait a minute, there's all this stuff being put in our foods that is causing lifetime chronic disease,
right,
and all this other stuff. And that's kind of when I went, okay, whoa, I'm turning 63 in December. I'm doing a lot of walking lately. Okay, it's time for me to start paying attention here because I want to live healthy. And for us to be good partners, we're not talking today about, something that happens with your adult child and how do you handle that. We're talking about turning the spotlight on you, mm-hmm, and how being a good partner means your health too. I mean, we've talked about empty nesting. We've talked about all these other things to do, your marriage, that. Now we want to focus in on the health, because you want to be around for a long time to see your grandkids and live life. I mean, you don't want to be, I'm finding out that if I don't make any changes, I could have something chronic for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I also started thinking about the book Atomic Habits.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
If we start making small adjustments in our diet, I've been trying to cut out breads. I'm not trying to eat as much bread. I'll go to Chick-fil-A hamburger place. I'll get it lettuce wrapped. Things like that. Just slowly start cutting something out. Or maybe I'm cutting out, I don't need to have ice cream tonight. I'll do it twice a week instead of 5 times a week. And she's still laughing at me. Anyway, that got me motivated, because really anything that we hear has to motivate us,
Right. And I'm not here to, I don't know. I don't want to sell this to you. What I really do want to sell
do the work yourself.
Is the book to find out for yourself. And I am not paid by her. I am not getting anything from her. I've read a portion of it and am feeling very convicted about how I live and trying to figure out how this is doable for me.
Right. And the other piece of that is she's partnered with her brother. Her brother thought she was nuts for giving up her Stanford-educated 9-year career as a medical doctor. You are crazy. What are you doing? You could make hundreds of thousands of dollars for the rest of your career, maybe into the millions.
Oh, definitely.
He's gone to Harvard Business School. He's graduated top of his class.
Yeah.
And by listening to her, she's like going, wait a minute, there's a problem with our what they're feeding us in our metabolism, and we're not being told the truth. And they've done all this research together. She convinced him, and now they're kind of a pair. They've done all this research on companies that are giving to this and that and the other. It's very eye opening. I'll just put it that way.
It's a little convoluted when you find out that, it's like food companies that are paying for studies that then we go, oh, this is a new study and this says we should be eating this.
But if you trace the money back, it always comes back somewhere.
And that's the piece that you have to go to is who's getting rich off of this.
Right.
So I hate to be so cynical. I don't like the cynicism that comes with that, but we don't know the truth, and this is the truth.
Right.
And, between lobbyists and pharmaceuticals and food companies, all of those, they kind of are running a lot of this kind of stuff.
Right.
And the FDA even,
right.
A lot of that. And a lot of the people who work for NIH and are on the board and making decisions have, what do you call it when there's they're getting paid by a pharmaceutical company and they're making decisions. What's that called? Okay. This is part of aging.
This is part of aging. Julia needs to make some adjustments.
I need to get my brain to work because it's simple words that I can't find.
Okay.
Anyway, there is a conflict of interest. That's it. There's a conflict of interest.
Right.
And
everybody ignores that.
And everybody ignores that, and people are getting rich off of things that they shouldn't get rid of.
Again, though, all we're saying is we're presenting this as a topic.
Yes.
Content for you to investigate yourselves. Here's what we found out. We want to be good partners to our adult kids.
Yes.
So this is the road we're heading down. We're sharing that with you. Please investigate it yourself.
Yes.
Don't sit there and get mad at us or make comments down below here that says.
Right. And if you hate Tucker Carlson, this has nothing to do with Tucker Carlson. Yeah. So I totally get that.
Yep.
This is strictly about health and wellness.
Yes.
So my point being, yes, I love this book. There are plenty of probably other good books on metabolic, how to work with your cells and all of that. It has to do with mitochondria and ATP and blah, 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 blah. I mean, it just
whatever those are.
Yeah, it goes on and on. Anyway, but I just want to encourage that because how you take care of yourself will matter to your children, your adult children. It will matter someday to your grandchildren if you don't already have grandchildren, and so on and so on and so on. One of the things that kind of stood out to me so far in this book as well is, we talk about how long people live these days. And we go, oh my gosh, it's so much better than 100 years ago or whatever. And one of the things that she talks about is the reason why people are living longer is more because of emergency care, because of acute illnesses, things that you can die from immediately and whatever. And we come in and they rescue them and they fix everything and whatever, as opposed to chronic illnesses. And Steve mentioned this, that chronic illnesses are the real problem. And nowadays, if you look at statistics and all of that, these chronic illnesses are starting in the youth. So our children and grandchildren are struggling with chronic illnesses that in our generation we would not have seen.
And that reminds me of one thing I remember on the podcast I listened to was there is stuff in our body knows naturally, it secretes a hormone that says, hey, I've eaten too much. It's time to stop. There actually is, Casey said, there's actually stuff now put into our food that doesn't allow that hormone to be released. So we sit there and keep eating and keep eating and keep eating. And we've got, if you look at the statistics she mentions, we have gone from being a very obese nation. I mean, look around wherever you're walking in public, there's a lot of people that are overweight. But nowadays we live in a culture, it's like you can't, say, it's like, it's
supposed to be okay.
supposed to be okay.
But
all we're
it's
saying
not
is
healthy.
that's an important thing going. If I don't know, like when I did Weight Watchers with Julia like years ago, and she got so mad at me. She lost like 30 pounds, and she goes, "Will you do Weight Watchers with me?" And I was like, "Sure." I was umpiring at the time, and my umpire pants were a little tight, and so
He only had 15 pounds to lose.
I am a detail-oriented person. So Weight Watchers was all at that time counting points. So I had my points down to a T every day, right? So I'd be at the end of the day, and I go, "So how many points do you have?" And she'd go, "Oh, I don't know." And I'm, well, what do you mean you don't know? I mean, if someone's going to give me a program and tell me how it works, I'm going to follow it to a T. And you got so mad at me because I lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And then he did the follow-up thing for like a whole year.
I became a lifetime member for more than a year. I think it was
it longer
for a long time.
He would go in every month and weigh in. And
so when I put my mind to it, I can do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of that to say, please don't hear, this isn't a conspiracy theory thing. This isn't cynicism. This is pretty much like follow the facts, follow the money, just do your own research and figure out these things. And you can learn a lot. And that's the thing that I appreciated about her. She gave up her career essentially so that she could start educating people on this stuff. The part that I was going to say about doctors being trained these days is doctors are mostly all specialized. So they're working on one part of the body.
Yep.
So we might have something go wrong. We go see, say, an ENT. And then something goes wrong with our face and we go see a dermatologist. And then something goes wrong with our heart and we go see a cardiologist. So we could see 5 different doctors that aren't talking to each other and everyone prescribing different medications. And suddenly you're on a bunch of medications. So all this to say is do your homework, be aware. If you aren't feeling good, do the work and find out why and make some simple changes so that you can be the best partner. Because the fact of the matter is, so I think back to the days, and sorry if guys are listening to this and this is TMI, back to the days of like PMS. And I had really bad PMS. I had severe, what you would actually call PMDD. So it was really severe. So if I think about that piece of my life, I can liken that to any time today that I don't feel good. There was more going on than just PMS. It was the way I was eating, the way I was sleeping, the way I was drinking, all of those things. And we have a tendency when we're not feeling good to try to find something that makes us feel good. So I know when I'm extremely tired, I'm like, what can I eat that's going to give me energy? What can I eat that's going to give me energy? And more often than not, we're reaching for sugar or caffeine. We think that, oh, that's going to give me the boost I need. But it's compounding the issues. So all that to say, just be aware of how you feel. Do the homework yourself. Be a good partner for your adult children and your grandchildren. And take care of yourself so that you can be present, so you can be alive.
I think in doing that, you're raising the bar because they're still watching you. They're still paying attention. Yeah. They're still coming over your house. Now, I'm not saying that we have to eat, this all like chew on some bark or something like that. Or
I hope not. I haven't gotten to that part yet. So I'm like, okay, that's what I'm really hoping she doesn't say.
I gotta go get some bark off the tree because I'm looking at deer in the backyard. She's gonna say, go hunt your own deer in the backyard. I don't know. But when we do that, our adult kids, our grandkids are seeing that we're taking this as part of a holistic way of living my life. I was also going to mention too, we tend to eat emotionally as people too. Yeah. So you could be totally fine. I'm like, Julia will eat healthy. Then if she has an emotional day, it's like, I'll look at her. I'm like, how come you have like 3 pieces of pie or whatever? I'm exaggerating.
Have you ever seen me eat 3?
No, but
I don't even eat pie. So.
No, but I mean,
jelly bellies.
I deserve something good today because I've had a rough day. So I'm gonna. Yeah. That's when I eat half a thing of ice cream. It's like this feels good, so I'm gonna eat it. Next thing you know, I'm like, what happened? I would step on the scale and going, I weighed 176 the other day. Why do I weigh 180? And things anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to. My biggest thing is to encourage you as a parent of an adult child that part of what you can do for them is not making life more difficult for them somewhere down the road. And if you happen to be a parent of an adult child who has an elderly parent that you are caring for, you know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it feels like to have to care for that, to watch Alzheimer's happen, to watch heart disease happen, to watch all of the cancers
and
happen.
you might have to take them everywhere. They become their own personal Uber driver because they've got to go to so many doctor's appointments and whatever. And it's hitting your life. And so, that can be crazy. I don't want that for our kids. We don't live in a space where we have so many resources. We don't have to worry about it because I'm like, okay, I hope somebody will take care of us. We hope so. We have a 1 in 4 shot of seeing which child will take care of us. But I don't want them to have to do anything other than, Dad, here's a room for you. Or Mom, depending on which one of us outlives each other. Maybe we don't. Here's a room for you. Here's you can have the downstairs place and live here, and that's great. I can fix my own meals. I can go for a walk. I can play with the grandkids still. I don't want to have to be sitting in a chair where I can't move or I need help out or things like that. And I think that's going an extra. Well, it's part of being that partner. It's you're leading. Yes. You're leading well by making changes yourself.
Yes.
And your kids are going to see that.
Yes. That's what we're hoping for. And we're hoping as a result, you have better relationships. Yeah. Because what I'm foreseeing, and this is kind of my point, is your children nagging you the way that you might have nagged them in the past. And the same way that they have responded to you, you may end up responding to them as, this is my life, leave me alone. I'm a grown-ass adult. Don't bug me. Excuse me. And your kids feeling the same frustration in watching you that you perhaps felt. Because the truth of the matter is what we choose to do, what your children choose to do, affects each other. And so being a good partner of adult children may mean that you need to start taking care of yourself better.
I have a question, Dr. Julia.
I am not a doctor.
Okay. That's my pet name for her. Okay. I'm a partner. I go over to my kids' home. Mm-hmm. They fix a very fatty, non-healthy meal that I look at and going, I really can't eat that. How do I handle that situation?
That is a really good question. Because you don't want to be offensive.
Again, we're not wanting to fracture a relationship.
Right. You don't want to be offensive.
You don't want to be right. Again, this is where the right relation and the right
But if you're going over there and you know you're going to be going over there ahead of time for a meal, you can say, hey, I'm trying to eat healthy right now. So I hope you don't mind. I might bring a couple of things of my own, or I'm going to have, if we can make a salad, that would be great. Or I really would love some fresh vegetables, or maybe you take a vegetable platter over with you or something like that.
Or because I'm the one that's going to go to relationship, can I say, you know what? I can do one meal and go back to my schedule if I had to.
Yes. The hard part is, and we all know this, when you've been on a good path.
Yeah.
And you decide,
ooh, that tasted really good. I don't know.
I'm just going to do it this once. And you get a taste of it. It's really hard to go back.
I know.
So I think we all do that with sugar.
I'm just trying to present another path because, there's more than me that's thinking about that out there. It's like, hey, you know what?
And I can't.
Go have a fatty cheeseburger. What the heck?
And I can't tell somebody how to be. I mean, that's just not my job. This podcast is more about, hey, have you thought about this?
Right.
And maybe you need to look at this and maybe even have a conversation with your kids. Does it, if like we always say, if you can handle what they have to say, go ahead and ask them.
Well, and you could end up with an adult child that's kind of like my mother-in-law. When she found out I didn't like nuts on my cake, she would make a cake for everybody, and there was nuts all over it except for this one square in the upper left-hand corner that was for Steve.
Yes. She is an enabler and a pleaser.
All right, sweetie. Anything else? The book is called Good Energy by Casey Means. She is a former medical doctor. We just recommended the surprising connection between metabolism and limitless health. We will put that in the show notes. Get that on Amazon. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to encourage if look for podcasts that she's been interviewed on. It doesn't have to be the one we heard. That was the one sent to us. So yeah, I'm sure she's doing podcasts all the time and being interviewed all the time. So you might just Google her and see what's out there.
Yep.
If going to the book isn't what you want to do. So anyway, be a good partner. Talk to your kids. Be open.
Continue the pivot.
Honest, be pivoting.
Continue the pivot.
And continue the conversations. And choose relationship over being right.
Yes. The other thing we like you to do is subscribe to this YouTube video cast. I guess if that's what it is. And also the podcast. Please like us, rate us, and find us on Instagram.
Yes.
Instagram. Parent Pivot Podcast.
Say hi and send us on any of those ways.
Some direct messages. Facebook, same thing. Parent Pivot Podcast on Facebook.
Send us some direct messages saying maybe what a struggle is, and then we can talk about it on our podcast. And don't worry, we won't give your name or give away things. So Yep.
We keep it private, confidential. Day. Awesome. We love having you. We love listening to you. We are not here making any. Notice we don't have any commercials. No commercials, no ads. We're not making any money off this. We look at it as an opportunity to just share from our hearts what we're doing. And if there's speaking opportunities out there at other places, we have one coming up in February called the Grandparenting Summit with Legacy Coalition.
Yes.
It's toward the end of February. We'll put that also in the show notes. So if you're a grandparent, if you can't make it to Birmingham, Alabama, they're also doing it online. Julie and I have been invited to do a workshop there, which we're pretty thrilled about. So we love doing stuff like that. So if you have something at your church that fits that, we would love to come and do that. So,
and if you're new to the podcast, just so you know, as you're watching and listening to us, all the stuff that we talk about is we are living this in real time with you. And so that's why if I read a book, you're probably going to hear about it because it's what I'm learning. I'm going through this. Steve's going through this in real time. Oh. We are raw, authentic in trying to be good parents, good partners of adult children.
We were just talking about a situation on the back deck behind us earlier today, that stuff that's going on that, it impacts us. But, we just, Yep.
We're quiet.
We're quiet about it. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We will see you next time on the Parent Pivot Podcast.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.